It's a pleasure to be here. It's always great to be able to have the opportunity to present North Star Gold Corp at the MIF conference. I'm Brian Fowler. I'm CEO and director of the company. I've been involved with North Star for just over a year and a half. I'm a geologist, and I've been doing this for about 40 years. Before I launch into, okay, hopefully this, right. Before I launch into everything, the obligatory cautionary statement, I will be making some forward-looking comments and statements. North Star is a newly listed company on the CSE. Prior to listing in early January, the company operated, as Gwen mentioned, as a private company focused primarily on gold exploration in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, and more particularly Kirkland Lake area. The company's flagship property is the Miller Gold property. It's situated 18 kilometers southeast of Kirkland Lake. The company also owns two other 100% owned properties. Towards the south, the Bryce Gold property and the Milestone Copper Nickel Cobalt property. We like Kirkland Lake. Everybody does. More than 24 million ounces of gold from 7 mines since the 1920s. So it's a great address. On the share capitalization side of things, the company's got 38.8 million shares outstanding, fully diluted. We have 47 million shares. Our current market cap is $14 million. We're up nicely today on the heels of some very awesome news, or awesome write-up by a very highly esteemed newsletter writer, and very happy for that. Thank you, Gwen. The company has a cash position of about $2 million. We have no debt. We're primarily a retail deal. Our float is about 15 million shares. We did a recent flow-through financing, and we did bring in some institutional investors. So that would probably add up about 5% of our current share structure. Since listing in the early in January, the company's had a fairly steady and positive news flow. We listed on a $3 million IPO at 30 cents. It took a while, but we did it. We made it work, and then shortly after we got listed in February, late February, we announced that the company had commenced a 3,000 meter diamond drill program on the Miller property. And in the latter part of March, the company announced a $1 million flow-through financing, and 11 days later, announced closing of that financing. So we're very happy to have that behind us, especially with what's been going on the COVID side of things. And speaking of which, April 14th, we regretfully had to announce that we had temporarily suspended drilling at the Miller property due to COVID-19. We had managed to drill 2,200 meters and 13 holes prior to cessation of drilling, but it just got too scary on a lot of fronts. More on that later. The Miller property is situated 18 kilometers southeast of, I mentioned, Kirkland Lake, but also same distance southeast of Kirkland Lake Gold's Macassa South Mine Complex. We've got very compelling geological similarities to the Kirkland Camp and the deposits of the Kirkland Camp. We've got the properties are the Miller property overlays the Catherine Fault structure, which is a first order structure coming off of the Cadillac Larder Break, and Kirkland Lake deposits are off the main 04 and the Amalgamated Break. These structures are very important in localizing gold mineralizing fluids, and we think we've got we're tapping a similar source of gold enriched fluids as the Kirkland Camp. We also have similar age rocks and the similar style of mineralization being gold telluride with tellurides. So we've got some very compelling similarities. Zeroing in on the property, the Miller property is situated over a 3 kilometer by 2 kilometer highly altered zone centered by a 3 alkalic cyanide intrusions. And these are the type of intrusives that you want in a gold system. And so the intrusions are central to the property, and then you'll see that the Catherine Fault goes through the property as well. And this is, we believe, is analogous to the amalgamated or the main 04 break through Kirkland Cap. Outboard of these intrusions, we've got high-grade gold and within the intrusions, high-grade gold and telluride mineralization occurring in quartz veins in vertical structures, northwest, southeast, pretty much every direction. We've got, there's also some gentle or more shallow east-west veins carrying mineralization. There's the historic Miller Independence Mine, which was active in the early 1900s. Not much really came from it, but in 1987, a company came in and drilled a number of holes, 37 holes, and developed a historic estimate of 270,000 ounces at 11.5 grams per ton gold. Now, this entire estimate does not occur on our property, but we've got the western limits and pretty much the entire down dip extent of it. There's, I should have mentioned previously that this is the historic Boston Creek mining camp. So there are 11 shallow shafts on the property. There was in the 1940s up in the northwest corner, the Barry Hollinger mine, and it produced 70,000 ounces of gold at 11.2 grams per ton from a vein structure striking northeast southwest, and the depth extent of that occurs on our property. So the takeaway here is that you've got these large, continuous, high-grade veins that are central and dipping towards this intrusive center. I'll carry on with that. So this is a 3D rendition of where the Miller Independence estimate is. You can see some of the vertical holes, very shallow. That estimate has been traced down to about 100 meters. It's still open at depth. This is what the veins look like on surface. The number 1 vein zone is fairly shallow with high-grade quartz and mafic volcanics. And the D vein is kind of a north-south structure that is on the western flank. And then there's a lot of these veins. Actually, the number 1 vein does persist in the allied syenite, and we see a lot of lower grade mineralization in the allied syenite in the form of gold and tellurides. And this is these, like I mentioned earlier, this is pretty much what the center of the system, and there's excellent potential for some significant amounts of lower grade gold mineralization. Aerial view of the property. It's road accessible. This is the number 1 vein right here, and the B vein is back over here. You can see what they look like from the air with the drone, the golden sidewalk, and the number 1 vein. In 2016, North Star went in and did a bulk sampling program, mined and milled 1,000 tons and processed it at nearby Camflo facility, and it came back with about 5.1 grams per ton. And the metallurgy is identical to your typical Kirkland deposits. So we're very happy with that, with very good recoveries. Prior to North Star acquired the property by staking in 2012, and since prior to this year, it spent about $2 million on the property. Between 27 holes were drilled on a budget of 5,800 meters, and focusing on both the number 1 vein and the volcanics, but also the stepping out into the cyanites. And you can see that in the allied syenite, there's some very broad intercepts, gram over 97.5 meters, gram over 104 meters, but there's also some higher grade sections of 19.25 grams gold over 0.3 meters. The planet syenite, which is There is a an exploration target of up to between 1 and 500,000 ounces, between 1 and 3 grams per ton. And that's predicated on some drilling that I will show you shortly. But you can see again some of the drilling that's been done by North Star, 0.6 grams over 147 meters. These are pretty broad and impressive intervals of low-grade mineralization. We feel we're just starting here, and we've got we're going to have the benefit of some 3D IP and some very sophisticated geophysics and modeling to help us target going forward. And yes, so this is the planet Syenite. This is just north of the Allied Syenite and the Miller Independence. You can see the Catherine Fault going through here, which interestingly has never really been drilled, and it represents an exceptional exploration target in its own right. But you can see the distorted outline of the syenite. So they were intruded, sin deformation, sin alteration. So they've been squeezed, and the margins of these syenites are preferentially mineralized and intensely albite altered, and you get the very large intervals of lower grade mineralization. 147 meters of 0.6. You can see 23 meters of 2 grams within the syenite. Additionally, I think it's very important with the property is that there's these are just grab samples nearby. So anything that's got quartz in it, you got a good chance of getting high-grade gold or tellurides. So every rock type can be mineralized, and that is a very important element of a major mineralizing system. So what we're doing, as I mentioned, our phase 1 drilling had commenced at the end of February, and it was to involve 3,000 meters and 20 holes. Unfortunately, we had to shut it down, but we did get 2,200 meters on 13 holes, and we're still processing the last couple holes to get them into the lab. There's been a lot of delays and complications with the COVID situation. We hope to resume phase 1 drilling in mid to late May when conditions improve. We will also, in a phase 1 exploration, be undertaking a $340,000 3D IP mag and gravity survey over the property earlier this summer, and this will be supplemented and followed up by some mechanical stripping, trenching, and sampling, and then phase 2 drill targeting with all those results. We anticipate starting commencing a 4,000 meter drill program in late August, mid to late August, entailing up to 4,000 meters. This will be targeting, following up phase 1 results and some deeper holes, more than likely around the syenites. So we're in a situation to drill about 7,000 meters on the property this year. We are fully funded, and with the intention that hopefully we can start developing a preliminary resource estimate by the end of Q1 in 2021. So just to zoom in on what we've done so far, this map illustrates the historic estimate as it stands right now. You can see it's predicated on these vertical holes that were drilled in 1987. This is the property boundary, and the Miller property holds pretty much the entire, in the entire depth extent, because this thing's kind of going east-west in certain fashion and dipping towards the north. So we've drilled about half of our holes. We're within this, testing certain areas within this resource estimate, historic estimate area, and then about equal amount of holes were drilled outside of it, testing the margins and some of the zones that we've determined are worth drilling from surface work. I guess, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the board and special advisor to the company. Part of our initiative to go public involved restructuring the company and augmenting the board and management group. We've got a number of very highly accomplished seasoned professionals in the mining, exploration, financial, investment banking realms. And we're very fortunate to have as a special advisor Mike Sutton, who a renowned geologist who won Prospect of the Year award in 2006 for the discovery of the Macassa South Mine Complex. So Mike is a huge addition, and he knows the beast, and we're very pleased to have him hands-on working with us. So going forward, hope I've got this across to you that the Miller is a very compelling and property of merit. It's got the right style of mineralization. It could be a mirror image of the Kirkland camp. It's only been shallowly explored to date, so it's got excellent potential for not only narrow high-grade style mineralization, but also broad zones of intrusive hosted mineralization in the gram to 3 gram range that would definitely support a large open pit type scenario. Our share structure is fairly tight. We've got a proven board of directors and management group, and we have been very aggressive in marketing our company, and we've got excellent news flow going forward. So as we expect to report all the phase 1 drill results here in mid to late May, and as I mentioned earlier, get the drill spinning again and continue phase 1 drilling. We'd like to drill at least another 1,200 meters and up to 14 holes, be shallow holes, to finish phase 1. And then after that, we would undertake our geophysics program and surface mapping, stripping, and targeting, and then launch into our 4,000 meter phase 2 drill program in mid to late August. So yeah, I hope I've convinced you that North Star represents a very solid entry-level way to try to capitalize on the increasing gold price. And yeah, thanks for your time.